Are we ready? Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Committee of Adjustment meeting for September the 28th. Before we start, I will remind the committee and members of the public that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the Township's YouTube channel. This meeting is being held electronically due to COVID-19 pandemic. Precautions and measures are in place regarding social distancing to ensure the health and safety for those in attendance at the municipal office. Anyone who registered to participate in this meeting will be invited to speak in order of the applications being heard. I will now do a roll call of committee for the benefit of public watching the meeting. When I call your name, please wave at the camera and say here or present. Item Jim Burley.
I'm here.
Hans Hutka. Present. Carl Ziegler. And Linda Dixon. Linda, do you hear me? Linda Dixon, wave please.
Present.
Okay. Jeremy Vink, Manager of Planning. And Nancy Thompson, Recording Secretary.
Present.
Thank you. I will now provide an explanation of the procedures for this meeting. Each application will be read by Nancy, and she will ask each applicant to make a brief presentation not to exceed 10 minutes. The committee will be given an opportunity to question the applicant. Any other person who has registered with the recording secretary and is wishing to address an application, either for or against, will then be given the opportunity to speak. Please make sure that you have turned on your microphone and video and identify yourself clearly to the recording secretary. After everyone has had an opportunity to speak, the committee will make a decision on the application. Once discussion on your application is complete, please mute your microphone and turn off the video. You are free to leave the meeting at this time or remain and listen to the balance of the applications. Applicants are advised that each application has a 20-day appeal period as required under the Planning Act. The last day of appeal for applications heard today is October 21st, 2020. At this time, I will ask if any members of the committee, if they are declaring a pecuniary conflict of interest in any of the applications.
No.
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 At this time, I will ask Nancy to read the application.
First application this afternoon is for minor variance A16 and A1720 for Dan Isles for the property at 3 Street East in Elmira. Property zoned residential mixed high density is currently vacant land. The applicant received minor variance approval under applications A14 and 15 2020 on June 29th to reduce the lot frontage and lot width for both the proposed severed and retained lands from 12 meters to 11.1 meters. After surveying the lands, it has been determined that a further variance reduction is required for both the proposed severed and retained lands as follows. A16, relief from section 12.2 to permit a reduced lot width of approximately 11 meters, whereas 12 meters is required for the proposed severed lands at 33A Church Street East, and A17, relief from section 12.3A to permit a reduced lot frontage of approximately 11 meters, whereas 12 meters is required for the proposed retained lands, being 33B Church Street East. Dan, if you'd like to turn on your video and audio, you can speak to the application.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and thanks for taking the time to meet with me today for my application. As you're aware, about 2 months ago, I was in front of you requesting that I be able to sever the property into two single-family detached building lots With that came a minor variance requirement, which at the time was a 90 centimeter reduction. At that time, I had went out to site, used a bar finder, found both property bars, pulled a chain, a surveyor's chain between them, and read a dimension of 22.3 meters, which should have worked out okay. However, upon working with the surveyors, and I hired Van Harten in this case, we determined that the one property bar was actually an offset bar, which was approximately 6 inches off the true corner. Therefore, my minor variance that was granted would not fit. I'm essentially out about 3 inches on each of these lots, and I'm requesting today to be granted a further minor variance to allow for single family detached houses on these lots. I believe the lots are big enough to support single family detached houses. And I also think it would be of benefit to the Township of Woolwich and Elmira specifically, considering that this property is almost directly across from Bolender Park. I think there's a great family opportunity there once the project is built out. That's everything I have for now. Please let me know if anyone has any questions. Thank you.
This time I will ask members if they have any questions of the applicant. Yes, Linda. Yes, Linda, you have questions?
No, I have no questions for the applicant. I have a question for Mr. Vink.
Go ahead, please.
Hello, Jeremy. Through you, Mr. Chair. Just wondering about the previous ones. So if these are approved, what happens to the previous minor variance applications, and how do we distinguish which are in effect?
So the previous applications are basically overridden by these ones because these would give greater flexibility. So we would be working in the case, these ones would be the ones that would apply. There wouldn't really be a conflict because we have both in the file, just noting that this is what is approved by the committee and it's the smaller amount, and they.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions of the committee?
Jim or Chair?
Yes.
Another question to Jeremy, and it's just because I can't remember. Were there any conditions applied to the first minor variance that we didn't include in this? Was there any conditions that need to be moved? Since this one takes precedence now, is there any conditions that need to be moved over to these minor variances?
No, we had just granted, the committee had just granted the variances for the reduction in lot size. So conditions were applied to the severance, but that doesn't impact these variances.
Thank you.
Is there any members of the public that want to join in and ask questions? Seeing none. How would the committee like to handle this application for minor variances? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, it's Linda Dixon here. I move that minor variance application A16 2020. Do you want to do them one at a time?
Please.
Yes.
The minor variance application A16 2020 for the property known municipally as 33 Church Street, East Elmira, to reduce the lot width and frontage from 12 meters to no less than 10.9 meters for the proposed severed lands be approved.
I will second that. Tim Cronin.
Thank you. Second by Tim. Now we need a motion for minor variance.
Call for the vote.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to move minor variance A17 2020 concerning the property known again as 33 Church Street East in Elmira to reduce the lot width and frontage from 12 meters to no less than 10.9 meters for the proposed retained lands be approved.
Okay. All those in favor?
Oh,
Need a
second.
seconder.
Oh, again, confused here, sorry.
No worries.
Second.
Can we have a seconder on the second motion,
That
please?
would be Charles.
I'll second it.
And maybe voting on both of them.
So could I have a vote on the first, that would be first minor variance? All in favor? Okay. Vote on the second one. Favor? Okay. This motion is now passed. I will still reminder of the 20-day appeal, October 21st, 2020 to Dan.
Next application is for minor variance application A18 for Empire Communities Riverland Ltd. for the property known as lots 9, 10, 11 Blacksmith Drive in Breslau, being part of phase 2 of their draft plan of subdivision. The properties are zoned residential mixed high density with design guidelines with site specific provisions, and currently it's vacant residential land. The applicant is requesting relief from site specific section 26.1.345A, subsection I, and then subsection B, to reduce the minimum lot frontage for 3 internal lots, being lots 9, 10, and 11, within phase 2 of the draft plan of subdivision from 8 meters to approximately 7.1 meters. The lands are currently vacant and proposed for development of single detached dwellings. Bimmel, if you'd like to turn on your audio and video. And as well, there is a resident here, Wilson Lau, if you would like to turn yours on, and then when asked, you may speak as well.
Good afternoon. My name is Vimal here from Empire Communities. I've reviewed the staff report and the recommendation associated to that staff report. I have no concerns with what's being proposed in terms of the recommendation. I concur with everything that's being said in there, and I'd be happy to answer any questions should the resident or committee members have with regards to this application.
At this time, I've asked any questions from the committee members.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I was just wondering for the applicant, did the Waterloo North Hydro clearances, were they met with the new frontages?
So our original, we were engineering design back when we had done phase 1, which accounted for these reduced frontage lots. Through that engineering design process, Waterloo North had reviewed our plans and had provided sign up at that time. So satisfying that concern with Waterloo North Hydro.
Any further questions? Yes, Marcia.
Chair, through you to staff, is this setting a precedent for undersized frontage lots potentially?
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, it's not really setting a precedent. If they were regular rectangular lots, I'd have more of a concern and would have, as it was, you can notice in the report, we did hesitate a little bit. But because we're looking at these pie-shaped lots, by the time you get to the actual frontage of the house and further in, it is a minor reduction. They meet it at the front of the house. It's just at the very front of the parcel where we're having that issue with the reduction. Like I noted in the report, they can still accommodate the driveway, they can still accommodate landscaped open space in the front. So we're maintaining the intent of the official plan and the zoning generally. This is basically a minor reduction in this case. Like I said, if it was a regular rectangular lot, I don't think we would be in the same position necessarily wanting to support it at that point. I don't think there would be enough justification.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the committee? No? If not, I understand there is one from a resident. Could we hear from that, please?
I have no questions.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Tim Cronin here. Question for staff. Noted in the comments there was about the driveways. Is that something that's taken care of at the building permit stage, or is it set out of the subdivision stage, or do we need a condition included here?
For you, Mr. Chair, that's something that will be handled at the engineering design stage. They'll be finalizing the plans with them as well as building permits. So we don't need to worry about it at this point. It's just a comment that they should be lined up side by side if possible.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, I would ask Betty, how would you like to handle this application?
Mr. Chair, Tim Cronin here. I'm ready to make a motion.
Sorry, did Wilson have something to interject in this?
Sorry, no, I didn't have any questions. They were all answered.
Okay, thank you. Hearing that, I make a motion that minor variance application A18-2020 concerning the properties described as lot 9, 10, 11 on Blacksmith Drive, known as Phase 2 Draft Plan Subdivision. Breslau request for relief from site-specific section 26.1.345A1 to reduce the minimum lot frontage for 3 internal lots, lots 9, 10, and 11, within Phase 2 to the draft plan of subdivision from 8 meters to no less than 7.1 meters be approved.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Hans. All in favor? That motion is passed.
Next application, variance A19 for Jeremy Rupert for the property at 3781 Arthur Street North. Property is zoned agricultural and contains a single detached dwelling, a detached garage, and accessory shed with an attached lean-to. The applicant is requesting relief from section 6.4.4, increase the total building size from 112 square meters to approximately 149 square meters in order to permit the existing 37 square meter accessory shed with an attached lean-to remain on the property. The property also contains a 112 square meter detached garage and dwelling with no attached garage. Jeremy, if you'd like to turn on, great, thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Committee of Adjustment. My name is Jeremy Rupert. I live at 3781 Arthur Street North, which is just 5 minutes outside of Elmira. The minor variance is to be able to keep a small shed at the back of my property. I use the shed similar to how most of you probably use your garden shed. I have a lawnmower, a small tractor that I use for yard maintenance. And then some off-season storage stuff. I have a snowmobile and some other power sports. So I use the shed to basically so that I can use my main detached garage for its intended purpose, storing my vehicles and a little bit of hobby space. I'm a volunteer firefighter with Woolwich on Floridale. So in the winter months, I like to keep my truck inside so I don't have to break snow and ice before responding to a call. So it was mentioned in the application that I don't have excessive accessory building square footage, which I agree with. It's just kind of in a different configuration than a typical property where you'd have an attached garage and then maybe a detached shop or accessory building. So I've read the comments and I'm in favor with the suggestion that should this be allowed, that it would not be permitted to have an attached garage on my house. The layout of my property doesn't lend itself well to that place. So that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask the chair to have questions of the applicant. Okay. See no questions. I would ask the committee at this time, how would they like to handle this application?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question of Jeremy for a second for clarification? I'm pretty sure I understand what he's saying in the condition, but I just want clarification before I finalize it. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Jeremy, no garage attached to the dwelling shall be permitted. Does that mean they can't build a new attached garage with all the accessory buildings that are there, would that preclude them from attaching the existing garage to the main structure?
So, through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, so they wouldn't be permitted an attached garage at all at this point, if you approve this recommendation. Now, if they came in and they tried to extend the house to attach the garage, that's a good question. We would probably actually have to come back to the committee to change something up or make some modification, but essentially we're just saying they can't have an attached garage because that would amplify the amount of accessory space they would have, so.
Okay, thank you.
That's how I would understand it as well.
Any other further questions from the committee? Seeing none, I would ask the committee how they would like to handle this application.
Through Mr. Chair, I'll move for a motion of application, minor variance application A19-2020 concerning the property at 3781 Arthur Street North, be approved subject to the condition that no garage attached to the dwelling should be permitted.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by
I'll
Hans.
second it. Oh, okay.
All those in favor? That motion is passed.
Thanks. The next application is variance A20-2020 for Brad for the property at 23 Brookmead Street, Elmira. The property is owned residential medium with site-specific provisions and contains a single dwelling and an accessory shed. The applicant is requesting relief from the following. Section 6.4.1A to allow an accessory building to be located between a building line established by this bylaw and the street, being Sugar King Drive, and section 26.1.274B subsection ID to reduce the required flankage yard, being the exterior side yard Sugar King Drive, from 4.5 meters to approximately 0.6 meters. In order to permit the existing 7.8 square meter accessory shed to remain in the current location on the property. Brad, if you can please turn your audio and video on.
Hi, so I'm Brad Prentice, and this is my wife, Lori. We are the property owners at 223 Brookmead Street, and we just have something that Lori would like to read.
After looking around Elmira, sheds, decks, and even garages located in the flankage side yards is a common practice throughout our community. Evidence of this is illustrated by a short list of 15 properties we listed in our variance application. These properties with structures in their flankage side yards are located within close distance to our own property. The structures range from decades old to currently under construction. Being that Woolwich Township operates under a complaint-based bylaw enforcement system, and these structures continue to be built, indicates the community is accepting of these structures in practice, regardless of what the official bylaw states or the intent of the official plan. Despite the complaint-based system, the community's acceptance and the township's inaction to common practice by allowing this usage of flankage side yards visually communicates to the community's residents that this must be an accepted location for accessory structures and decks. These existing structures throughout the community have not created a shantytown appearance as suggested by the planning department. The list we provided of the properties with accessory buildings or decks in their side flankage yard is only a small example of the properties throughout Elmira. The example we provided of 94 First Street West on the corner of Killdeer Road has a separate garage built on the property's flankage side yard, which was permitted based on an approved variance to the flankage side yard setback and issued a building permit. Another example is 27 Pintail Drive on the corner of Whippoorwill Drive, which also has a large garage-like building in its flankage side yard that must have required a variance approval and issued a building permit. These two examples by themselves suggest that the precedent of approving flankage side yard setback variances already exists and has for quite some time. In our yard, with the existing landscaping, tree, and concrete patio, as well as the planned gazebo structure, There is a little, if any, room to replace the existing shed without awkwardly squeezing them in and taking up the majority of usable yard space. The existing shed was built on site 11 years ago and is not a prefab structure. If our variance application is denied, in all reality, the shed would likely have to be dismantled piece by piece, possibly destroying it in the process and sending it to landfill, making it not an environmentally responsible outcome. Along with our building permit application for the new gazebo, our intent had been to include the re-siding of the existing shed as part of the same project to maintain the aesthetic appearance of our property. Our intent was to improve our property and to give our family more usable outdoor space. We respectfully request that our variance application be approved. Had we not shown the existing shed on our planned site for the proposed gazebo permit application, this would be a non-issue, as we believe no residents have had an issue with the location of our shed in the past 11 years. Since these accessory buildings and decks continue to exist and are not being forced to be removed while new ones continue to be built, it clearly shows the community is accepting of these structures. We are asking not to be treated any differently and for our application for variance to be accepted.
That's all we have.
The question from the committee to the applicant.
Nope.
Seeing none, I would ask the committee, how would you like to handle this application?
Mr. Chair, Tim Cronin, I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, you can.
I too went around Elmira and recognize where some of this is, where these side yards are being used. My concern, it doesn't make it right that we add to it or take away from it, but it sounds like might be something for council to consider, that they've created a zoning bylaw to prevent encroachment on this area at the side of the houses and where they want to deal with it. So on one, I sympathize with where this came out. So the concern is that approving them, it just exasperates the problem and doesn't do it. And the other one part of this one is, if the shed was on the other side of the house on the other property line, it would be still restricted to a 1 meter from the property line. And this one's requested to go down to 0.6 meters, which is even closer than the other one. So although I recognize where the problems is and it's going on, maybe from a bylaw point of view, but the way I'm seeing this is it's more than minor, and that's one comment in there. We're totally encroaching on what they would use for side yards. So I guess we'll just make the problem not go away by approving them one at a time.
So are you, Tim, at this time, are you prepared to make a motion?
I'm waiting to hear from the rest of the committee and hear any other comments.
Is there
Okay.
further? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if that's the case, then I'm going to say I went out and I did a site inspection of the property. And when I first went out and took a look at it, I did not have the benefit of any planning comments on it. And I did not have a concern with it. And honestly, after reading the planning comments, I still don't have a concern with it. I understand about the setback and the other comments that were made, but I think overall, I agree with what Tim's saying, and maybe it is something to look at the bigger picture of this. And I understand that some of them are put up without a building permit because of the size of them. They don't really require a building permit. But looking strictly at this particular application, looking at the property, and not considering precedent, because that's as personally as a committee member, I don't look at it that way. I look at the property and I look at the surrounding area. And given the fence and the building structure and the distance the fence is, and there's a grassed area between the fence and the sidewalk, I still don't have a concern with the application. So I don't support the recommendation in the report.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, thanks.
I also looked at the property before having staff comments. And I was struck by the maintenance of both the fence and I did not find them offensive visually, nor did I find them intruding on public space or the neighbors. So I'm in agreement that this should be permitted. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just have a question for the applicants. Did you guys build the shed yourselves, or did you hire somebody to do that?
No, we hired a contractor. It's the same company that built the fence. So that was a year after we purchased the house, and after all this, the grass was in, then they came and built the fence and built the shed.
Okay, so they clearly didn't look into the zoning bylaws for the township to do something like that, right?
I would take not.
Okay.
Any further questions or comments? I would refer.
Right.
Okay, yes, Linda?
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm not hearing any further comments from the committee, so I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yes, go ahead.
So I move that minor variance application A 2020 concerning the property known municipally as 223 Brookmead Street in Elmira, requesting relief to allow an accessory building to be located between a building line established between a building line and the street, Sugar King Drive, and to reduce the building flankage yard or exterior side yard adjacent to Sugar King Drive from 4.5 meters to approximately 0.6 meters be approved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Seconder.
Seconder.
Hans is seconding. All those in favor?
2.
Any opposed?
Either you vote or they have to bring down a motion before it's defeated. If it's
What's the?
So we have a 2 in favor, 2 opposed.
Yes, we do. I am going to make a vote. And personally, I did not look at the property because I didn't feel I need to. I see staff recommendations. I've heard my committee members. I agree. And I am gonna be opposed to Brickfoot. Staying with council, or staying with the staff and the bylaw, which I think is proper. You know, how many do you allow? That's my plan.
motion defeated, they need a motion. You need to make a decision.
Yeah. So this motion has been defeated. If we can have another motion put on the floor for the application.
I guess if they don't, they deny.
I'm sorry, why do we need another motion? The motion was to approve it. We've defeated the approval. Sorry, I don't understand.
You've defeated the approval. So essentially, that motion is
Essentially it's
failed.
to fail, so I guess
So
they
it defaults to the denial. Yeah,
So you don't have to vote again. So-
right. Sorry, our confusion there. That motion to approve has failed, so the recommendation on the table then continues as denied.
That's correct.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Through the chairperson to Tim Cronin. Tim, I'd just like to understand, I thought you had kind of indicated that you didn't have an objection after having visited the property, and then you changed your vote. I'd just like to understand maybe a little why.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. we can't engage in a conversation after the motion's done.
Right, the decision has been made, Brad, so unfortunately we can't continue with discussion, okay?
Yep, very well.
This is closed.
For you, Mr. Chair, I'm a little bit with Nancy. We haven't had a motion to deny the application either. So I still see this as hanging out. It just means we haven't approved it. So I don't think that the application is lost just because we didn't approve that motion. So to give this a little more time, I would actually like to make a motion for deferral of this, and because the application's never been denied, I'd like to make a motion for deferral of this application for up to 6 months to see what else can happen with it.
Okay, a second on that motion?
I'm confused, Mr. Chair. Sorry.
There's been a motion put forth by
Oh, sorry.
Then there has been another motion put forth by Tim Cronin to defer it up to 6 months. So presently, that's what's on the floor. And I need a seconder to support that.
I'll second it. I'll second it. I'm not sure what it'll, but I'll second it.
Okay, so all in favor of the deferral?
No, discussion.
Discussion? Yes, Tim.
So I'm not sure what just a second to put it on the table so we could discuss this some more. I'm not sure what making a deferral there. I guess if there's questions about the application that needs to be brought forward, which there really didn't seem to be anything come out of our previous discussion. The other thing that's concerning me is we have had applications in the past where the recommendation would be to approve them, we've denied them, and then there's no other recommendation coming forward to do a second one. I think it's pretty clear that we've denied it through the failure of our decision to approve it, but that's just my 2 cents.
Mr. Chair, I guess that's the question of it, and it's a Robert's Rules of Order question of by not approving a motion. So the question is the motion denied by not approving it? And so if your understanding is that not approving it denies it, but all we did was we didn't approve it. We didn't really deny the motion. So depending how you read Robert's Rules of Order, and I by no means an expert. I just, my opposition was the motion as presented, I couldn't support. So that's where it is. So if we could have figured out what we should really need to do, that was the reason for deferral, saying, okay, did this actually deny it or didn't deny it? So if someone can establish that by not approving it, that was denial, and that's what the Robert's Rules of Order would say, then so be it. But that was why the look back at it, saying, okay, what is it? Unless, I'm not an expert in the field, and that's what I was looking for.
So you made another motion for deferral. Basically, I asked for a vote for that motion.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm just not sure what the deferral is going to accomplish yet. So we're just taking a quick look to verify. I guess for the moment we're saying is like any other application, if you approve it, you don't necessarily have to come back and necessarily turn it down at the same time or say anything else. So in this case, you've denied the approval of it, so you've denied having them there. Because the motion wasn't what staff recommended, it was what was put before you as a committee member. So the committee member put a motion on the floor, the motion failed as it was denied, as it failed. It was denied. So that means the shed, essentially, the minor variance was denied. The way we're taking it at the moment.
That's correct.
So Nancy's just double checking as I'm talking. I'm filling space, sort of. But that's the way we're looking at it at the moment is we don't necessarily need another motion because the motion to approve it was denied. So it's not allowed to stay at the moment. So, you know, at this point, a deferral has no direction to do anything. It's not going to change anything. So I'm not sure there's a value in a deferral at this point. I don't dispute with you, maybe going back to some earlier comments, that the better process is not the committee of adjustment, given that there might be more out there, as obviously was mentioned. So, but it is not a committee of adjustments decision to look at things broadly. That is a council direction that needs council approvals to change and let council hear the public input and then make a broader change. That's a whole other process and a whole other scenario. So that's not going to happen in 6 months either. So that's the alternative method, and I would suggest that that's where the applicants want to go, is to start trying to rally council to look at changes, but as a general amendment. But in and of itself at the moment, I would say the application was denied because the motion was turned down to approve it.
Jeremy, I have a question through you, Mr. Chair. So being that if we go with that, it's been denied, what is the time limit that they could do something to look into it through council before planning or bylaw or somebody would be out there telling them that it needs to be removed?
So I don't have exact timing, because that would be a matter we would involve the applicants and potentially bylaw enforcement in a discussion together. We're not at that point. So without putting words in anyone's mouth, if we were to do it, say something sent by them be denied today, they would essentially be given, they'd be asked for a time period of when they think they could bring it into conformity. So we wouldn't go out and say, thou shalt do it today. We're gonna say, well, what do you think is a timeline to bring this into conformity to match the zoning and meet zoning? If, you know, if they're hesitating or we don't see compliance, which I don't think would happen necessarily, we would give max 6 months and probably or something, and then deal with it from there. If it goes to council, that's a whole other process. It would be, you know, subject to then if whether council would even consider it, because it would have to be somewhat more of a general amendment potentially. If you were looking at amending everybody for everyone's purposes to allow them in the side yards, so.
But I take it through though, if they start the process with council, then things would kind of be on hold until a councillor or council in general made a decision that they were going to relook at it and maybe investigate whether that they need to change that or not. So things would kind of be on hold for them if that's the route they went and got that councillor involved, right?
So yeah, it would not be a councillor. They would have to, you know, either petition council to consider a general amendment or make their own zone change application. They can't just ask council to keep it. They can't do that. It has to go through a planning process. So they would need to either make an application for a zone change to permit it, which is more than a minor variance, or they'd be petitioning council to look at sheds in general and sheds in the side yard, and then asking council to say, do you want to engage in this as a general amendment and review it? And council could say yes or no and direct staff to look at it. If they do that and direct staff to look at it, then it would be delayed until we get through a process, yeah.
Okay, so I have located here in Robert's Rules of Orders, and Jim as the chair actually did not need to vote. So it does indicate where there is a tie vote, the motion is rejected unless the chair gives his vote for the affirmative, which he did not. So the motion that was put on the floor to approve was rejected. No, I don't know about making another motion. No, so having said that, I don't think we need another motion. The motion put on the floor was just rejected, and the application would go with the recommendation as was originally stated.
Yes.
Denied.
For you, Mr. Chair, I get that about that motion being denied, and I still totally agree with that. But I still didn't see the denial of the minor variance. I've seen us in the past, you know, if we put a motion forward that included some clauses that weren't approved, that you know, a second motion with different clauses in it has allowed a motion to proceed. So that's where I see the difference going. Is my mic working?
Yes.
I hear you.
So Tim, did you want to put through a motion of denial then?
I don't think we need it.
No, I did not want to put through a motion of
I don't think
denial.
we need
And, I just didn't like the way it was right there. And so I didn't like that particular motion.
So through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The motion put on the floor by the committee member was to approve and allow the shed proposed.
That's correct.
That was denied. So in essence, that denies the minor variance. By default, it basically denies it as recommended, but they are not approved, so that means they can't keep the shed there. So by default, the shed can't stay because they have no approval to do so.
Right.
So I don't think another recommendation is required. If the committee was coming back and saying, okay, we denied that, we want to put a motion on this, say, put conditions on, that'd be different. But that's not happening. You're just saying yes or no, and no one's coming forward with an alternative. You're just all either agreeing or disagreeing. So I don't think there's another motion required at this point. You still have to deal with the deferral, but there's no other motion needed around the shed because it's already been denied.
Okay, Tim? Does that answer your question?
Well, it does and it doesn't. You still have a motion for deferral on the floor until we get that definitive answer. And I guess the question is, did that deny the motion? And opinion is that it is, and we can put no clear variation on it. I guess the applicants have the right of appealing it to the local appeal tribunal, whatever it is now. So there's always that avenue to let the tribunal have a kick at this one and go that route. So either you have to have a vote on this deferral motion or declare that the motion was out of order and move on. It's all up to you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Why was the motion out of?
Yes, Clemens. My concern here is that this shed has sat there for 11 years, has been well maintained, and it hasn't offended anybody. And I would feel better if we found a vehicle to give the some time to look at alternatives without rushing the process, especially given the time of year. So is there, my question to Mr. Vink, is there a method, and I think that's where my fellow committee members going, is there a method to buy them some time, 6 months would be a good time to look at alternatives to demolition?
Through you, Mr. Chair. It would give them time. I'm not sure what the alternative, because I don't have anything else. I'm not sure if they have any alternatives. The challenge is because the committee has turned it down. There is a decision already in front of you. The committee has made a decision to deny it. Okay, that decision is done. If you give them 6 months to come back with something else, that's not really the correct way. They can come back with another variance, but you have denied the application. So I have a concern of the process that's taking place. I'm not sure what the deferral will accomplish because we're going backwards and we can't go back and change the denial at this point. So it is maybe best that we leave the denial. If they come back with an alternative plan to another variance, look at that. But that's probably the better process. We can't really defer an application that's been denied, essentially. I don't think makes sense in that context.
Thank you very much. Linda, do you have something to add to that? Linda, do you have something to add to that?
You talking to us, Jim?
No, are you asking me,
Yes, I am.
Mr. Chair? I have nothing further to add.
So at this point, we will leave it as a denied.
We need the decision on the.
We have to vote on the deferral. We have a motion on the floor that's been first and seconded. We have to deal with it.
Okay. So all in favor of a deferral? 1, 2. So opposed to the deferral. 1, 2.
Motion defeated again.
So motion has been defeated.
So maybe just to summarize for the poor applicants, sorry for the confusion, but doesn't even happen. You are denied at this point, so the committee is trying to decide at this point in time. So you can take a look and sit with us and find, discuss some other alternatives or options, solutions. But at this point, the committee has turned down the shed, or like I mentioned, you could try and petition council to do a broader amendment and look at sheds in general, but right now, your application's been denied. You could also appeal if you so desired.
For another $900 to appeal?
Just to submit the appeal, there is a fee, yes, and then you have to wait till the LPAC hears your application, and then you would have to defend your application in front of the LPAC and potentially see where it goes. It's not a fast or speedy process.
So even though all the council members did not even come and see the property to see how it looked, that doesn't have any bearing on the fact that it's been there 11 years, the fact that other properties have rusted phone booths and they get to stay. It just doesn't seem fair that we were honest on our application and then we get dinged like this.
Yeah. There's a property that has 3
I'm just summarizing, so we
separate sheds down its flankage side yard, and they get to keep it. No one in the complains.
I'm sorry, but I was just summarizing, we can't engage in debate or conversation. We can do that external to a meeting, but I can't do it in the meeting.
As a chairperson, I would like to call for the next application, please.
The next application this evening, is minor variance application A21 and consent application B17 for the estate of George Winfield, and minor variance application A22 for Rick and Julie Winfield for the properties at 678 Catherine Street North and 686 Catherine Street North. Properties are zoned agricultural with site-specific provisions. 678 contains a single detached dwelling and accessory shed, and 686 contains a single detached dwelling with 2 accessory sheds. The applicant's requesting permission to sever a parcel of land from an existing non-farm lot and convey it as a lot addition to the adjacent existing non-farm lot. To facilitate the proposal, the following applications have been submitted. The severance application B17, to sever a vacant strip of land having approximately 24.4 meters frontage by 181.4 meters depth and being approximately 4,426 square meters in area from 678 Catherine Street North, conveyed as a lot addition to the adjacent lands located at 686 Catherine Street North. Minor variance A21 is to amend the site-specific regulations to recognize a reduced lot area of approximately 1.5 hectares and a reduced lot frontage of approximately 71 meters for the proposed retained lands at 678 Catherine Street North, located in an agricultural zone, and A22 to amend the site-specific regulations to recognize the larger lot at 686 Catherine Street North with an approximate lot area of 1.1 hectares and an approximate lot frontage of 70 meters, also located in the agricultural zone. Rick and Julie, if you have your video on, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Julie Winfield and this is my husband, Rick. We're the owners of 686 Catherine Street North, and we're asking for the minor variance to be approved, for the lot line to be approved for a buffer lot proposed for the pending sale of 678 by the estate in the near future.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? To the applicant. Seeing none. How would they like to handle these applications? Yes,
Pardon me, Mr. for Mr. Chair, just a second, we're just having a technical challenge. We
Linda
lost.
lost connection. Okay.
I guess got it. And Linda again, sorry. Okay, we got Linda back, I think.
Are we good now?
Yep, she's back.
Sorry, Linda, you lost connection there? Or we lost you?
You're muted, Linda.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, thanks for letting me back in. Sorry about that.
No problem, okay. Sorry, Mr. Chair, you can continue.
We have heard from the applicant of Winfields, and did you hear that?
I'm sorry?
Did you hear from the Winfields application when they spoke?
I didn't hear the applicant speak, but I'm fine with proceeding.
Okay. So at this point, we are asking if any of the committee members have questions of the applicant.
Mr. Chair, I do, and maybe it was addressed in the comments, so my apologies for that. I just noticed when I was out there versus what I saw on the site plan for the, I believe it was the septic line and the services for the retained parcel, that I just want to make sure, I'm not sure if it's on there as a condition that all services be properly contained with proper distances on the both the severed and the retained, or on the retained parcel, I guess, not the severed parcel.
Hey, Mr. Chair, in the severance conditions, there are number 3 just means they have to demonstrate that they grading and drainage works as well as the septic is maintained 3 meters off the property line.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy.
Okay, thanks.
I missed that. Thank you. That's it.
I would now ask the committee how they'd like to handle this application.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I recommend that application E17-2020 for the property at 686 Catherine Street and related properties be approved, subject to conditions 2 to 7 as recommended by staff.
Okay, do I have a seconder to that? Seconded by Linda. All in favor of that? That motion has.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Just a second, guys. We need some motions on the minor variance applications. We have them all individually done.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chair, I can make a motion if you like. That minor variance application A21-2020 concerning the property described as, if I got the right one, Hitchin Hose, part lot 1 be approved, subject to minor variance A22-2020, and consent application B17-2020 be approved.
Second. Seconded by Helens. All in favor? That would be passed also.
And Mr. Chair, that move that minor variance application A22-2020, Rick and Julie Winfield concerning the property Hutchins Tract, block 20, known as 686 Catherine Street, be recognized approximate lot area of 1.1 hectare on approximate lot frontage 70 meters and located in agricultural zone be approved, subject to 1 minor variance A21-2020 and consent application B17-2020 be approved.
Yeah, a seconder to that, please.
I'll second it.
Jarvis. All in favor? That also will be passed.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting of July 27th, 2020.
I so move.
seconded by,
I'll second it.
okay. Okay. Very good, approval of minutes. At this point, I would like to adjourn the meeting.
Did we,
Are you gonna
did
vote on-
we got to vote on the minutes. I didn't hear a vote, sorry.
I had a second, and we did not have a vote. All in favor? Thank you. Now I will adjourn the meeting.
Mr. Chair, just asking Nancy, do we need a motion to change the start times of these meetings, or is that just approved by council, or how does that work?
I don't know that we do. I mean, the council approved this virtual meetings. I think the time of the meeting is essentially up to the committee itself. I don't know that we actually established to set the time for 3:30. We just arbitrarily picked something in the afternoon that seemed to work best for everyone. You can if you want, but I don't see a need.
No, we don't need a
Let's
motion. I don't care. I just thought we'd approved times in the past, but if we haven't, that's great. Carry on.
Yeah, I don't think we have. Are you messing around here?
Yeah, because we still are live.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Sorry, everyone. That was partly my fault, I think, but just wasn't going to work out for me anymore time-wise.
No, that's fine, works for me, not a problem.
Sorry, we're just working on trying to stop the video feed here. Stop live.